Okay, welcome back. We're on Chapter 7. And Chapter 7 is kind of a fill-in-the-blank part at the beginning, kind of incrementally changing what you already learned. And then they throw in some really cool stuff at the end called media queries. Cool stuff. Okay, let's start with the learning objectives. So go to page 307. And here's all the things we're supposed to learn. How to do relative hyperlinks rather than starting with, a slash and doing something or giving it HTTP and doing something. We're going to navigate inside our own directory structure for our web page. Configuring a hyperlink for a named fragment using these new role features. Configuring image with sprites. We're probably not going to actually do one, but it's pretty cool. Configuring a 3-column layout. Hey, if you could handle a 2-column layout, you could probably handle a 3-column layout. Configuring CSS for printing. Why would that matter? Well, yeah, it matters. Well, describe mobile design, and then mobile web pages, and then adding responsive design techniques using media queries. That's a lot of good information there. Okay, so the first thing I talk about is I want to have, perhaps I have a directory structure inside my web page because I'm really kind of an organized kind of guy or gal, and so I want to have things kind of in a way. So I'm going to go here to this chapter guy, and I want to create a folder. So I click on this guy and say add folder, and let's say I'm going to call this one photos because I like to keep things organized. I want to put my photos in there, but maybe not all my photos. Maybe I'll have photos, maybe sort of like some sort of a structure, like, I don't know, 2016 vacation. Or maybe I'll have another one for 2017 vacations. Or maybe this one will be 2017 birthdays. Anyway, some sort of an organization where you would put something. Now, I'm actually going to need to put some graphics in there, so just give me a second to find something kind of relevant. I'm going to go to pictures here, and I guess I'll just continue using the same old picture I've always used. So I'm going to put one of these into here, and then I'm going to do it again so that each one of these has something in it. In fact, what the heck? I'm going to go ahead and put a third one here at the root. So now I have a directory structure. So some of the photos are in the root of photos. Some of them are in 2016 vacation. Some of them are in 2017 birthdays. Cool. So I want to talk to how to get. So here we are at our web page up here, basically at index, and I need to be able to. In order to get that, I need to be able to traverse the photo directory and the vacation directory in order to get to this guy. So here we go. I'm gonna go do an image tag. And remember how this thing works? Source. Okay. Now, I'm not going to use their little, I'm not going to cheat because otherwise the authoring tool would have done it all for me. So if I'm at index, I need to start at photos and then some sort of a slash. Well, if this was DOS prompt, you'd do it like that, wouldn't you? Well, let me tell you. This stuff was written back in the Unix days, and so it ain't a backslash, it's a / like that. So now I've gone to the photos directory. Now I need to be able to get to the 2016 one. So 2016 vacation, and then another slash, and then any thumb. I think it's any. I can't read what it says. Yeah, thumb PNG. Okay. So what I've basically done is I've manually created an entire path starting at the level where we are on index. I had to manually traverse the photo directories. Okay, so that kind of makes sense, right? Let me go ahead and clear this guy off. I'm going to go ahead and do an alt tag here because picture Annie. Okay, cool. All right, so that wasn't that bad. Now I'm going to go down here to the birthdays place, and I'm going to add an HTML file. Okay, so I go here, and I want to go ahead and do it. And I'm going to just leave it the way it is. So now I'm down here, and I want to get to this image here. So in other words, it's not in the location yet. It's actually up and over one. So how in the world would I do that? Well, you do it like this. So it's image, and then same thing again, source. And I'm going to do the alt tag while I'm thinking about it. So alt, and it's going to be Annie. Okay. So what I want you to do is I need to go, whatever structure I'm in, I need to go up. Well, the up is dot dot. That means go up the structure. So up, and then I need to go to Annie thumb dot PNG. You know, if I was actually using different ones, this might make a little bit more sense, but hey. So this means go up one and then find what you want. What if I wanted this guy a photo up here in or I want to be able to get to this index guy? Well, he's up two. He's going up one. If I'm in 2017 birthdays, going up one will get me to photos. Going up again will get me to index. So let's do like a hyperlink here. An href. And I'll go ahead and put something in here. Back to index. So here I would say dot dot slash dot dot index dot HTML. So one dot dot gets me up, two dot dots gets me up twice. Okay. Hey, if you ever were good at the DOS prompt, this is what we're talking about. All right, it's not all that difficult. If you just take a look at the book here, I'm sure you can figure it all out. The next thing we're going to talk about is a thing called fragments. Fragments, whenever you do a hyperlink, maybe you don't want to go to the top of this page. Maybe you want to go someplace in the middle. Let me give you a real life example. So I'm going to go here to my web page. Again, of course I'd use my own example, wouldn't I? So HTTP. I'm going to do www.edgray.com. I'm going to say articles, and I'm going to say edgemanage.html. Okay, cool. Now, this brought up this web page, but it brought it up at the very top. That's the default. Whenever you ask for a web page, it's always going to start at the top. But what if, for example, all you really wanted was this section down here at the very bottom that talked about the user's guide? Okay? In other words, sometimes you want to hear all the background and all the history and all the boring crap. Other times you want to go directly to, I'm stuck, I'm trying to figure out how to do something. I want to skip the advertisement and go directly to the help. Okay, so how would you do that? Well, I created a what's called a fragment here. And so on the command line, I can actually type this pound sign and then give it the name of a fragment that I created. I've created one called User's Guide. So this is after the HTML. See where it says, you know, blah, 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 edgemanage.html. Then there's a pound sign, and then there's something that you get added into. So I'm just going to hit return, and it brought me straight up to that. Cool? So let's do that in our own application. So let's say, for example, I want to go to a particular spot in here. Now, admittedly, we're going to need some text or something. Otherwise, we won't have any place to go. So let me just go find. Where is that goofy? Here we go. The Mary Had a Little Lamb thing. I just need some text in here, otherwise you won't be able to tell what we're going on. So I'm just going to put a paragraph tag and doink. And then maybe do that again so we have more than one paragraph. Okay, so let's just, first of all, let's just see if what this thing looks like. That would be handy. Come on, machine. I got people waiting. Okay, good. All right, cool. Well, what if when I started this thing up, actually, I'm going to need some more. I'm going to need some more. I'll explain why I need more text here in just a minute. Okay, so down here at the bottom, I want to put like an H2 tag that says, you know, here at the bottom. And then I have a paragraph that says, you know, whatever, something like, this is what you came for. And I'm going to put some more of these guys in. Okay. Sorry. Let me just show you what it looks like. Okay. So I got some text, and then I got... Oh, so I want to skip all this stuff and go directly to this spot right here, where it says here at the bottom. So how do I create one of those fragment things? Well, actually, the fragment part is actually... Go away. The fragment part is actually pretty cool. All you basically do is put a class in here. I'm sorry, an ID in here. That's all you need. So I just go to this guy and say ID equals, how about, I don't know, what do we call this thing? We'll call it, how about bottom? All right, I want to go to the bottom. So all you basically do have to have is one of these guys. Okay, so I'm going to launch this guy, and obviously it's not going to have any real change here. But then I go up to here, pretending like I'm typing this in, and I say bottom. And it brought me directly to the spot that I wanted. So creating fragments, it's easy. You just go to your code and type ID equals and give it a name. Now, IDs are unique, right? So I can't have two things in here called bottom. That kind of makes sense. And then to use it, all you have to do is put the pound sign inside the URL that you're typing at the top. It's not bad. It's pretty cool. Now, let me show you why I added all this text. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to tweak. I'm going to take all this text at the bottom out. And I'll show you what's going on. Okay. So one more time. Now all I have is that part, right? Cool. Now I'm going to add the pound bottom on there. And you go, well, wait a minute, what happened? Well, the system is designed to take what you just typed and put it at the top. Okay, right? So, but there's nothing below it. So how do I put it at the top? I mean, look at the scroll bar. I can't make the scroll bar go any further down. So things that are at the very, very bottom, it does its best. It brings it up to the viewport. In other words, the part that's showing on the screen. It brings it up to the viewport, but it couldn't bring it to the top because there was no more to go. One way to solve that, and a lot of people do this, if you have a fragment at the bottom. I know this looks ridiculous as heck, but I've seen people, do this, where you just have a bunch of these guys. You just go. Now, admittedly, it looks dumb because there's all this white space at the bottom. A lot of white space. But when you use that fragment, now it goes exactly the way you expect. Anyway, it's just one of those visual oddities. Yes, it did its job. It's just that the viewport didn't have anything left, so it couldn't scroll to the top because there was no more room to scroll. Okay, that's cool. So fragments are pretty easy. I use them. Cool. On page 312, they talk about the accessibility rich internet applications. Area? I guess it's pronounced that way. And so it uses a thing called landmarks, and this is all about accessibility. So I've got a screen reader or something, and I want to be able to navigate using landmarks, just like if you're driving down the road and somebody said, turn left at the big oak tree. That's exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about having known landmarks inside your web page so that accessibility readers can find those landmarks and say, I know exactly where we're at. We're in the navigation section now. Maybe we need to move over to the main section or something. So these noticeable landmarks. Okay, we're coming up on the 15-minute mark, so we'll do one of those in just a few.